Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. And Tuesday evening, England will face off against Wales in the final match of Group B, needing to avoid a 4-0 defeat in order to qualify. So qualification is basically all but officially confirmed. A great opening result, 6-2 against Iran, but unfortunately a really poor performance against the US, which has come with some heavy criticism, I think rightly so. But in the bigger picture, it's important to realise that in the context of this tournament, it's not really going to make too much difference. So there were some concerns. I think there's some things that need to be changed. It is a shame that we can't go into this last game against Wales having qualified and we can make wholesale changes. But George, what have you made of the opening two games? Obviously, the Iran game was great, but your thoughts on the US game, because it's coming for a lot of criticism. It was poor. What didn't you like about it?
Well, look, it wasn't great to watch. I'm not going to sit here and I know you say that I defend Southgate too much, which perhaps is true, but I listened in detail to his post-match press conference, and I think I agreed with a lot of things he said. I think it was very difficult for the England side to reach the heights of that opening game, where we were creating lots of chances, scoring lots of goals. That was based on the opposition we were playing. USA is a step up than Iran, regardless of maybe USA still not being perhaps known as a top nation. But we did also address a lot of the problems that did happen in Iran. Keeping the clean sheet was a positive. I'm just not on this bandwagon of it was a serious concern that we didn't create a chance to score goals, because we know we're capable of that. Obviously, it was, it wasn't great on the eye. We know that. We know we're going to have to perform better. But he also said right before a ball was even kicked, in tournaments, you're going to have games like that. And it's important when you're not playing well that you don't lose a football match. And that's exactly what we did. So it's our hardest game in the group, I think. You could argue Wales perhaps potential with their danger of Ramsey or Bale. You could argue toss up between the two. But I think the biggest issue, and I think that's the one thing I will agree with you on, and many of the fans who've listened into the show, is the reluctancy to change.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure why Southgate thought Henderson was the answer in a game where perhaps again we could have gone for it a little bit more. How Foden hasn't got on the pitch, I don't know, but then we know that Southgate has his favourites. And we've already expressed how Mason Mount does a lot for the team. Maybe didn't have the best of performances, but does offer a lot. Disappointing.
I mean, I do agree that it's not a cause for it's not like massive panic, because, as you say, most importantly is what it means in the context of the tournament, and it's not dented our chances of progressing. It's just a slight irritants that we can't go into this Wales game there and the job's done. And we can therefore go and rest key players. I know it's virtually done, but you just never know what happens in football. So that's a little bit irritating. But yeah, just on Phil Foden and Gareth Southgate's kind of reluctance, I think that's going to be kind of one thing that is always going to be levelled at him, and I think rightly so. I think anyone watching that game knew that changes needed to be made far earlier than they were. I personally would have made changes at half time. I certainly would have made changes 10 minutes into that second half. I understand that Southgate plays with the handbrake on. He's never been a manager that his first thought is to go and win. His first thought's not to lose. And I guess I get it in tournament football, particularly in knockout football, when you get to the knockout rounds, that's really important. But I think in the group stage, when you're playing a team that is inferior in quality to you, all right, not as much as Iran are, but they were a step up, but they're still, US are inferior to England in most departments, and yet we look like the inferior side for much of it. I don't think he adapted well at all in terms of we're getting dominated in midfield. Didn't really make any changes there. The front three wasn't working at all. Waited way too long to make any changes there as well. I think the reluctance to change anything, the reluctance of his in-game management, and I think ultimately for me, when it really comes down to it, when we're playing a France or we're playing a Brazil or we're playing a Spain or wherever it may be, hopefully in the latter stages, you cannot get your in-game management wrong, because it will cost you.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And we've seen we've seen Southgate be too reactive to situations rather than proactive, and make the changes when we're already trailing. And at that point, you've got nothing to lose. So you can't really applaud substitutions at that rate. What you need to see is proactive management of seeing something clearly not working, score still level, or perhaps even winning, but not secure with just a 1-0 lead, and taking the initiative. And I think there was a great opportunity last game for players like Rashford, who obviously came on and scored and made an impact in the first game, to get some minutes. Foden, who I think we all agree is probably one of the most talented, if not the most talented player in that group, should be getting minutes. I think midfield is a really, really difficult one for Southgate, because we aren't blessed with a lot of great options. And if you take off someone like Mount, despite him maybe not having the best performance, I think it does change the balance in there drastically if you give someone like a Maddison, or I don't know. He's obviously not going to drop Rice if Rice is fit, because he can double up.
The thing is, you wouldn't want to play Calvin Phillips in there, really, and then you're looking at Jordan Henderson. I mean, Phil Foden can play centrally, but if what Southgate wants is that work rate, that Mount gives off the ball, that press, Foden doesn't play like that. But maybe that's a trade-off you have to find, because I do think it's criminal that someone as talented as Phil Foden seemingly can't get into this England team. We know that full well, whether it's right or wrong, we know full well Phil Foden starts for every other top nation and they build the team around him. Yet for England, can't even get in a team. Like Pep Guardiola, who we know is tenfold better than Southgate will ever be as a manager. He's nurtured Foden into a world-class talent, plays him every week. I just don't understand how we're in a situation where we cannot fit Phil Foden into an England lineup. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, we're the only nation that could possibly be in this situation. And for me, that's something that Southgate really has to think of fixing as soon as possible, ideally in this tournament, realistically. But I mean, moving on to the Wales game, Wales obviously terrible, as we know. It's a great achievement for them to be here, but ultimately they lack so much quality. Gareth Bale, if he's not on it, they've got nothing. Ramsey was nowhere near the footballer he was of a few years ago, and the rest of the team is bang average. But it is kind of a battle of Britain, as it were. We saw in the Euros and we drew to Scotland. I'm not saying that what we're going to draw to Wales. We could do. What are you expecting from this game, mate? Let's get into that lineup. You expecting? Well, I guess, what would you like to see? This is what we'd like to see. There's got to be changes, isn't there? We can't go with an unchanged team for the third game on the spin.
No, I wouldn't put it past Southgate, in all honesty. I think this comes at a good time for England. I think we need a bit of kind of, all, home nation competition, a bit feisty, to get that competition up. I think team players probably went into that USA game unsure of whether to go for it or, contain what we have, considering what happened in the game before. I think we were probably expecting Wales to win, and therefore, it did change the game because we didn't have to win the match. I don't think a lot changes. I'd be very surprised. I think he's still going to go with his tried and tested, the likes of Trippier at right back. He'll still probably start Sterling. Kane is interesting. I mean, I don't know the developments on how he is.
He didn't look right in that game against the US, and you could see afterwards he still had heavy strapping on that ankle. For me, I just don't see that. I know that he's going to play, but for me, I just don't see any point in playing him in this game. What are we gaining by playing Harry Kane in this match? We're not gaining anything.
I think it is very risky though, and I made a point to you earlier that you set yourselves up for years in advance for a tournament, and he's had lots of time to think about this team, and you've now got 8 games to play your best team and what you.
We don't need Harry Kane against Wales.
Well, you say that, but then if he leaves him out and we struggle against Wales and we're not getting the result we need, he's going to come under even more criticism, saying, "Why didn't you start Harry Kane?" I think personally, if he's fit and he wants to play, you play your best team throughout the whole tournament. That's just how I feel about tournament football. I think you pick a squad, yes, of course you do, and they all need to be ready and equal right to come on and make a difference. But you don't have time. It's not like a season. You don't have time to say, "Oh well, we'll rest him for this one, so he's ready for the next one," because that can have a huge impact on momentum. It's risky. It's because imagine if we don't win this game against Wales. we can qualify. We could finish second in the group. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think if Kane is fit, I think he plays. I think it's risky to go with anyone else. If we couldn't get past USA with Kane playing, I don't see how we improve with playing someone like Wilson. I know I'd love to see it, but I don't think he's going to do it.
I mean, I'd like to see Kyle Walker play at right back. I think we're virtually qualified. Walker needs to get some minutes. This is a perfect game to stick him in. I probably would stick Kyle Walker in. I don't know if he will, but I'd be inclined to go with that. Just give Trippier a bit of a rest, get Walker's fitness up, build up to some minutes. If he does try to go, if he tries to switch to a 3 at any point in the knockout rounds, if we're playing a better opposition, then Kyle Walker is going to need some minutes in the tank. This is the perfect opportunity for that. I think we both agree that Declan Rice is obviously going to play. Do we think Jude Bellingham's going to play again? I personally would play him.
Yeah, not the best of games. Yes, the other day, but I still think we haven't got many options in there. I think he still warrants a starting place. I think if anyone's going to change, it might be Mount.
Mount. I don't know who. But
well,
I don't know.
I think we would change it. Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? I don't.
Well, I would personally not start Mason Mount. But then if you go with this system, I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to pick Jordan Henderson. I'm not going to put Calvin Phillips.
Maybe
I'm not going to play Calvin Phillips there. So then what am I going to put there?
Can Maddison play there? I'm sure he can play there.
He could play there. I mean, do you know what I'd be tempted to do? I'd be more tempted to go Phil Foden in here. But obviously, he'd play that role very differently to Mason Mount. But he'd be different. He'd be better in a lot of things. Perhaps not in the work rate off the ball. But I think I'd put Phil Foden in there. Going to the front 3, mate. I agree. I probably would play Kane because I think you have to, even though I think we don't need him against Wales. I still think, we have to go with him because I don't have the confidence in Callum Wilson to kind of lead the line in this sort of game. Unfortunately, it's as simple as that. Really, I would make 2 changes on either side though, and I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this. Sterling for me has not had a good season for Chelsea. He was awful against the US. I understand Southgate's loyalty to him because he's been superb in an England shirt. I think it's a time to take Sterling out. I would personally play Jack Grealish on the. I was going to go. I would play Grealish on this left-hand side. I think he deserves a start. I mean, these sides could be different. Maddison, I'd love to start, but I know full well he's not going to start. And I probably would still go Saka. So I'd probably go with that. I mean, what are your thoughts on the front line? I think there needs to be a bit of a switch in the wide areas. And I think Grealish is probably at the top of the list to come into that lineup in those areas.
Well, certainly from what we've seen from Southgate so far, I think Grealish is next in line to get that position, even in front of Foden. You could argue.
Yeah,
I can't see Foden playing there. I mean, I know your thoughts on that. I think if Foden's going to play, it's going to play where Grealish is, and therefore he's probably
it could switch. It could switch to a 4-2-3-1 though. It could easily go Foden there, Rice, Bellingham.
Yeah.
In a bit of a pivot like that, we could go. To be honest, I'd be more inclined to maybe go with this.
Yeah. I mean for me, that looks better already for me.
Yeah. What would you would you agree that Sterling probably needs to come out?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think he's great in an England shirt. Don't get me wrong. And again, he's one of those in that Southgate spine who he trusts to get those big moments for us, and he's proven he's done that. But as much as I don't like Grealish personally, he does win a lot of fouls for the team, and we're so dangerous on set plays. So if you're going to think logically, that's set plays are probably our biggest asset, and he wins a lot of those on that wide areas. And I think a lot of people were impressed by Grealish when he came on against USA. Saka, again, a quiet one, but because of how well he played in the first game, I think he deserves it. And again, don't have many options on that right-hand side to change it up.
It's too early for Maddison. Rashford, maybe. But I think we'll go with that. I think it's a decent team. There's some much-needed changes there as well. I think he definitely needs to make changes, but it'd be interesting to see how many changes he actually does make. To round out the video, mate, quick score prediction. England-Wales. Surely we're going to win this one.
God. I mean, I'm obviously going to back England to win, but I think it's going to be, again, it's going to be tight. A lot tighter than probably people think. I know Wales aren't playing particularly well, but I think we're going to slug our way into the knockouts somehow. Don't expect it to be very high scoring at all. I was going to say 1-1, but I might just push 2-1 again. I might push for the 2-1 again to England just.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know. I would like to see the group and how it works out. If we get a draw, can we still finish top?
Yeah, we'll be on 5 points. No, actually,
So-
if we draw and Iran win, Iran go top on 6.
I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna go 2-1, but I think there is a potential for it being another draw.
Yeah, there's always potential. It's going to be a tricky game. I know Wales aren't great, but it is going to be tough. I still fancy England. I agree. I'm going to go with a 2-1, but let's see what happens. England versus Wales on Tuesday night. That's the match preview rounded out. Guys, please make sure you smash the likes on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I'll catch you, Tuesday night for the watch along England versus Wales. So make sure you tune in for that, guys. Catch you again soon.